Welcome to MG number 264. Keep racking up the cheers. Keep racking up the numbers. This is on books and what we're reading. Pretty self-explanatory. A bit of a funny story. So, Rollo thought we were playing today, and like, wait, I didn't even schedule a game. But the funny part of that, not that he thought there was a game, but he canceled a game that wasn't scheduled.
Yeah.
To DM the game. So I thought that was if you're listening, Rollo, you old bastard.
Which was nice. I will say this, it was in the last probably half hour, maybe even the last 15 minutes of his show on Sunday. He did talk about playing D&D with the crew at the Masculine Geek, and and gave us all a shout out, and
thank you.
Said that, those listening to his show on Sunday should come check it out over on our site and watch our show and stuff like that, especially when we game. So that was nice of him. He didn't mention anything about having a game on Wednesday then, which I thought was kind of interesting, since it seems like several weeks ago you asked him when would be a good Wednesday to schedule a game, and he had yet to respond to.
Well, he didn't respond to that one, and then I figured, all right, well, March is already. I'm going to schedule things out on March, hence our book talk tonight, which is, I like this stuff.
Yeah.
And April is fairly booked. Not that I can't change some things, especially if I'm the one scheduling the things that don't involve guests. I can shift whatever I want. But on the 3rd, we're talking about motorcycles, and AJ will be on that one with us. And then let me think. April, and then something's on the 10th and the 17th. All right, so Drew's game is on the 10th. Excuse me. And the 17th, we're having the gentleman from the Leaf Cutters back on. In fact, I have to reach out to them and find out what cigar we're all smoking, because we're all going to do a review together.
Okay.
So that'd be fun.
Yeah.
So the only Wednesday in April that's open, theoretically, for Rollo to run the game if he's available, is the 24th. So, with that in mind, I sent out another email regarding availability in May. So, I'm waiting to hear back from everyone on that. I swear to God, it's like an act of Congress to get a D&D game up and running these days.
Oh yeah.
Herding cats, you guys, you little retarded kids.
Well, considering we're in 3 different time zones, because you've got TJ on the left coast, you've got Rollo somewhere in like the mountain time zone.
AJ is in Texas.
Okay.
Rollo's
so that's central.
Rollo's now in LA. You're in my time zone.
Right.
Drew's in my time zone. So the 9:00 p.m. Eastern is actually a good start time in general, because the other earlier time zones, those guys are starting earlier.
Yeah.
So conceivably, they have their dinner and settle in for a game or a talk.
Right, because I mean, it would be after they're off work. It would be after they'd had dinner and stuff like that. You and I are the only ones risking potentially the loss of sleep before a work day.
Correct. That's why I'm so adamant. I am a stickler on time, especially starting on time, or saying you're going to be somewhere when you say you're going to be somewhere. But I have to get up early in the morning. 6:00 comes early.
Yeah.
And then you and I work. We work the 9 to 5, and you have a family. I've got extra projects sometimes to work on after work. I've got reading to do. I've got writing to do. I have other projects that I'm working on. I actually have a very active social life. It's kind of a stupid word, but it's the only thing I can think of. I have friends and girls. So
you actually have girls. You don't need to watch Let 'Em Burn to find out from Rob and Nick and them how to get the girls. You've already done that. So.
Correct. Yeah, for many decades. So that's,
yes.
I've limited my my watching and listening hours. Don't get me wrong, everyone's still friends and we still talk, but I don't go back and watch their stuff.
If I am sitting here working on something, I will definitely flip over for a little bit, give them a like, maybe even make a comment for the algorithm and stuff. But it really depends. If they're just generally talking, or maybe really talking about something that's kind of interesting, I might continue to tune in. If it is, remedial education for all the glue eaters out there, it's, even when it's amusing to hear Rob go on a rant, it's
I love when
kind
Rob
of a waste.
rants.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
just
love when
kind of
Rob's awesome.
unfortunately a waste of my time because I'm not going to get anything out of it. Just like most of the time with Rollo's content, with like Mike Sartain and that kind of stuff, and the shows with the 304s on it and holding them accountable or whatever. That none of those kind of shows have anything going for them. At least with Rollo and Mike Sartain, there's a little bit more content to it.
Yeah.
But it's Rollo's Sunday show I listen to fairly regularly, but that's only because I am in a work situation on a very long day, and that's in the latter part of the day. And it's just, for me, flipping that on is just a chance to hear a friendly voice. Someone I know.
No, you're absolutely correct. Yeah, that's good.
So
that's good to do. I'll do that with Rule Zero every now and then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'll occasionally stop in on Post Zero with Jack and Nicola Caudell.
Yeah, they've asked me a couple Sundays to be on, but unfortunately I'm at work. And occasionally I've had time when I could have done it had Jack sent me the link like he said he would, but he never sent me the link.
You guys,
what the? Yeah, and I'm not going to like pester him about it. Like, you asked me to be on, and I said I'm busy, but if I can make it, send me a link, and if I can make it, I'll hop on.
Yeah.
And you don't send me the link, it's like, okay, well, you got a full show. You don't really be there.
So, and if anyone's wondering, TJ has a family event to attend to, very important one. So he is incognito and in absentia. All right, so we're gonna get started with on books. That's one of my favorite subjects for a variety of reasons. As you can see behind Robert, he's got many books and toys and games and such. So we are book nerds.
Mm-hmm. Or girl nerds too. I mean, I've probably wasted more time studying women than I have just about anything else. So
absolutely, nothing wrong with that. And you always want to make sure you're with women that love to read as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to pare down a little bit, but I have 9 bookshelves in my apartment. So there's 3 here in the den/study, and the rest are out in the living room. A couple of books are, well, actually there's I probably would have more bookshelves, but I have piles everywhere because it's it's one of my few vices, my indulgences. And then I have, say, 5 in the living room plus the extra book piles, and then 2 in my bedroom. So yeah, it's pretty extensive. And then I have all my D&D stuff are in containers here, 3D dungeon tiles and stuff. But anyway, so well, I threw this up on my. If you're not following my Instagram account, your SOL, but I did throw this up on my Instagram account a little while ago. This is a must-have for every gentleman. This is The Art of Pinup. This is over 500 pages of pinup goodness. This is outstandingly amazing. It's got good history. I just started it. Good history and intro. They go over the nose art, the nose cone art on the planes, the like B-17s and whatnot, and its use there and why it was done, and then it showcases 10 of the most prolific and popular pinup artists, including Vargas and Vargas and Elvgren are two of my favorites, and they're in here. So, give you an example. Let's flip through here. It's just absolutely fantastic.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, let's get some other good stuff. So I'm reading this right now. I love history, and when it involves history with scantily clad, tasteful illustrations and paintings of women, you can't go wrong.
Titillation is underrated.
It really is. And here's one of the artists. Who is this? This is Gil Elvgren. What am I saying? One of my favorites. He's in the top portion there. That's some of his stuff. He's got an actual artist. It must have been fantastically fun to work with some of these women.
Oh, I bet.
You know. So that's one. I have actually about 20 books I'm going through, but I'm not going to go talk about all of them. And then I just purchased. I had sold my old original copy many years ago, and AGA renewed my interest in getting a new copy because he's using the rules for the Barbarian for his game in Drew's campaign. So I got another copy of Unearthed Arcana, which the guy on Abe Books said this was in good condition. It's really kind of not.
Yeah,
I mean, the spine itself is pretty solid, but the cover's all jacked up, and some of the pages have some water damage. So I'm going to yell at him later.
Yeah, my copy's in my bedroom at the moment, so I would grab mine to compare it, but mine's definitely, cover-wise, it is in much better shape. But mine's, I think, a one owner. I think that's my copy, or it's a copy I stole from one of my younger brothers because they had stolen some of my books, so I returned the favor.
Yeah,
which did not happen nearly enough to balance that slate. That's a whole other topic for conversation.
Oh, I'm sure.
Now you also have the art book for Robert McGinnis.
I bought that, a long time ago. Yeah, right. I still cherish that. I have that. I've got Mort Kunstler, and a few others. These are nice.
But layout-wise, it's very similar to what you have there, right? As far as featuring their artwork and how some of it was done, and
exactly, and the history behind it, and all the other goodness that goes with it. So we have some comments and such in the chat. So Calibrate, the background soundtrack, is from Master and Commander. And will I speak to how they're organized? I don't go alphabetical, but I do go by sort of genre niche. Let me just share this real fast. That's probably gonna get dinged for this, but screw it.
Oh well, it's worth it.
Oh yeah, still deal with it. Screw you, YouTube. So this is just too fantastic. So I would say this was, strangely enough, this was only about $50.
Wow, that is a really good price
on Amazon. For a book. I know this book is almost 20 pounds.
Yeah.
You could really do some damage with someone if you hit them with the. But I would suggest, gentlemen that are in the chat now, anyone watching, and then anyone listening later, make sure you pick it up. Good, Robert. You're going to say something?
Your comment on striking someone with that reminded me. The next time you have one of your ladies tied up in the stable. That might make a pretty interesting spanking implement, if only for one shot to go up on your Instagram.
That's actually, you know what? Thank you. That's a very good idea. In fact, I do have a session, if you will, scheduled with one of my girls for Friday. We're going on our Friday night dinner and drinks and playtime afterwards. So I may do a little photo session with her and include this book somehow, and maybe a short spanking video with this book. That'd be and give a shout out to you for inspiring me for that. So thank you very much, sir. That's awesome.
Right.
So I have there's one shelf here is all D&D. There's also D&D over here on the floor, and then over here I've got top shelf is journals and diaries, Civil War, Thomas Wolfe. I've got some Hemingway stuff. I've got the Glug Archipelago and whatnot. I've got Somerset Maugham, all kinds of Orson Welles,
Orson Scott
George
Card.
Orwell,
okay.
Glenn Curtis. In fact, I'm doing one of the Men You Should Know videos on Glenn Curtis. He's the airplanes and motorcycle guy.
Cycle. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've got a lot of bondage erotica and other 2 shelves of that kind of niche there. A few works of fiction. I've got Eric Stanton's work. He was a BDSM and whatnot illustrator for the pulps back in the 50s and 60s. What else? Dita Von Teese book is pretty good. I've got a one book called Cinerama, which is basically sleaze pulps, all about that. Basically, it's set up very similar to this, but more raunchy and exposed, if you will. And then out next to the couch, I've got horror, H.P. Lovecraft. I've got some Ellen Dean Foster. What else? That's mainly my horror.
What about your Betty Page books? Surely
they're over here on the BDSM side too. Yeah.
Okay, that's why I figured they'd be, but I hadn't heard you mention her by name, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I've got several. Yeah, one of the best ones is a photo book by a gentleman called Jack Faragasso.
Okay,
he was a well-known photographer of the time back then. I think he's still alive. He's done some poetry chapbooks, and he did some of the more revealing private photos of Betty Page. And the black and white noir ones are really fantastic. So look him up, sure. Jack Faragasso.
Awesome.
Let's see. And then in bedrooms, a lot of like literature and fiction. Hemingway, Fitzgerald.
Any Victorian erotica?
Not really. D.H. Lawrence. I've got philosophy stuff out in the living room here. I've got my one shelf is full of New Jersey history. I've got my Tesla section. I've got philosophy, just kind of miscellaneous books on one shelf.
What kind of philosophers?
Zen, Alan Watts. I've got like Cicero. I've got Plato and Aristotle.
So the classics, as far as the classic Greeks.
I've got all
in the way of the existential philosophers.
A little bit. I've got William James. I've got Kant. I've got what's his name? I've got Rousseau. I have his Confessions. In fact, I have that book. I've since had that from college. Let's see what else.
Some of the existential philosophers make what I think are very interesting, valid, and reasonable points. What always throws me off with certain ones is how for them, that where I read something they will say, a treatise or a thought, and I am like, I see where this leads into independent, libertarian individualism, and for them, it somehow leads them to Marxism. And
there's a lot of that.
Sartre, what the hell? How do you get 2 + 2 = Das Kapital? I don't get that.
Well, a lot of these philosophers, it was that whole I don't want to work.
Yeah.
So Marxism fit right in. Yeah. Like, all right, let's steal from the rich or the perceived power structure and just disseminate that to mainly me because I don't want to work. So
that's one of my favorite scenes in Mel Brooks' History of the World, where he's standing in the unemployment line, and B. Arthur is the unemployment lady, and Mel Brooks is the person in line, and she's like, occupation, and he's like, stand-up philosopher, and she's like, oh, bullshit artist. Have you bullshit today? Have you tried to bullshit today? And to get his unemployment check, and of course, around this time, his agent shows up. and tells him he has a gig for him, and of course he loses his unemployment benefits right away. But
That's
anyway,
awesome.
that whole stand-up philosopher, i.e. bullshit artist, I have never ever lost that. And the scene at the beginning where they're doing the cave drawings, and the narrator, which I believe is Orson Welles, is talking about with the birth of the artist came the inevitable afterbirth, the critic. And that's when the critic's standing there looking at the cave drawing, and then all of a sudden he lifts his fur loincloth and urinates on the cave painting. And
I really have no patience for critics, to be honest with you. It's like that old Woody Allen saying, those who can't do teach, and those who can't teach Jim. I just really, people that make their money off of telling other people like whether this is good or not,
and
why you should or shouldn't buy something is to me is somewhat contemptible.
But there are a lot of YouTube channels. That's all they are.
No, I know. People people want to be told what to do.
Yeah. I mean, not that we don't express our opinion, but we're talking amongst friends and expressing our opinion.
Yeah,
sometimes we don't agree with each other.
Yeah,
on our opinions,
we're not making it a job.
Yeah.
To basically shit on people's work.
No.
Let's see what else. Maybe if you guys want, I'll take some photos of my. That's what Rob says and TJ whenever they come over. They're always always have a bone to pick with TJ because he'll go to some of my book piles, and I have them semi-organized. He'll go through them, and he'll put them back out of like my order. Like, dude, what do you do? Stop that! Hate that. So, but maybe I'll take some photos. So that's what they would do. They'll come in and they'll take photos of stuff so they can, go back and reference and order the book themselves.
Yeah.
I'll also have a shelf. Of a shelf. There's a major big cutout between my galley kitchen and my living room, and along that shelf I've got some carved animals and probably about 16 books. Yeah, I've said this before in MG newsletters, and I've mentioned it before on shows. It's I would advise, especially when you're studying history, is to take some of the major players in that history that you're studying, and if you can find them, get books, autobiographical and biographical studies on them, and if they have their journals and their own words, get those as well and read those. I've been AJ. I've been an old Alan Watts fan for since college, really. In fact, I still have some old cassettes of his lectures. Pretty cool. Now, how about yourself? What do you got? What's like? I know gaming, obviously, but what are you reading now as far as any fiction or nonfiction?
Well, currently the book I am reading is this book by an author by the name of Steve Brown. It's called Fit to Command. And it's about British regimental leadership during the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars. And it's kind of like the old adage with the British Army is that the officer corps were purchased commissions of ne'er-do-well sons, and these guys were completely unprofessional and ill-prepared to lead men into battle. And, you had the worst of the worst intellectually leading these troops. And during the Napoleonic Wars, that's not necessarily the case. And this book is an attempt to actually look at the data, the journals of these men, the regimental reports of these men, and kind of reassessing that narrative, part of which has been made popular in some of the writings of Bernard Cornwell. Although not all of his officers are the worst of the worst. He has a pretty interesting mix of characters in that. So I think that's kind of a bit of a generalization to criticize his work for that. Fiction-wise, I would highly recommend, if you like historic fiction, to read anything by Bernard Cornwell. He's got a really interesting take on the myth of King Arthur. Obviously, his Viking stories, the Saxon Chronicles and the Vikings power struggle in England has been a fairly successful, I believe, Netflix TV series. His Sharp series about the rifleman Richard Sharp was a successful. Yeah,
that's where you get Sharpshooter from.
Yeah, was from was a very successful series of like TV movie things by I think ITV in Great Britain. But anyway, they starred Sean Bean, and it's one of the only roles in which Sean Bean plays a character that doesn't die. And then
that's good.
He has a series called the Starbuck Chronicles, which is about a Northerner who ends up fighting for the Confederacy during the Civil War. And unfortunately, that series remains unfinished at, I think, 3 or 4 books. And I think part of that is just the challenge of writing a really interesting and cool character who happens to be fighting on a side that will ultimately lose that war. And plus, so much time has gone by and things are so bass-ackwards right now that I'm afraid that even if he wrote that and had the character remain noble and a good guy and everything else, fighting for the Confederacy, and showed even anything close to an even-handed or even actual portrayal of what that conflict was, the resolution of that conflict and what America was like at that time, I'm afraid he'd probably be like any SJW that heard of it would like be calling for his head, because how dare he write anyone having anything to do with the Confederacy as a decent human being, because obviously they all have to be monsters, because that's the whole reason they're pulling out all the statues and pretending none of that stuff happened. So but anyway, that is the book I'm reading at the moment. Couple of books that I've read fairly recently that I recommend. This one is by author Gareth Glover, and it's called Waterloo Myths and Realities. He has several books on the Napoleonic era, various sides, British or otherwise. Here's another one, Wellington's Riflemen in Peninsula War, in particular the 95th Rifles, which is Sharp's unit, even though he wasn't actually with the 95th Rifles in most of the books. He was with a company called the South Essex. But so
cool.
Obviously, I enjoy his writing. He is able to write historic books in a manner that is still interesting and engaging, not at all dry, but yet still presenting facts, so that, academically they are very well researched. And then another one I had read fairly recently for a second time, for anyone who has any interest in the Battle of Rorke's Drift or Isandlwana in the South African Zulu Wars, or like the movie Zulu with Michael Caine, I would highly recommend Zulu Rising by Ian Knight. This book, which is a thick book, covers the Battle of Isandlwana and the Battle of Rorke's Drift. This particular copy I happen to have is autographed and personalized to me by the author.
Check that out. Where'd you get that at?
He is very active on Facebook, and I'm a part of his group of on Facebook that are enthusiasts for the British Army, especially the Zulu Wars. And he is very active and engages his fans and readers of his work. I had a softcover edition of the book that I had bought, and he had found that he had some of these hardcovers which are out of print. He had a couple extra lying around. The dust jacket was damaged at the bottom, and he just said if anyone was interested, and I contacted him, said, "Oh, by all means, I would love to have a copy in hardcover." And so I got it directly from him,
cool,
at a more than fair price, and he sent it from all the way over in England to me here, and like I said, was nice enough to autograph it. And then let's see. Then I've got just a couple of other books that are on the pile to read. One is Galloping at Everything, which is by Ian Fletcher, I believe.
The name
Yes.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, and it's about the British cavalry in the Peninsula Wars and at Waterloo. And the British cavalry have a reputation as being very unreliable in that they would charge off into glory at just about anything at any opportunity. And instead of maintaining any kind of discipline and control so that they were a reliable unit, Wellington had very mixed feelings about them, whereas the cavalry in like the King's German Legion had a lot more discipline and control. So they would charge to a certain point, do what it is they needed to do, and then pull back so that they can be used again. Whereas the British, especially the cavalry at Waterloo, charged all the way to the French cannons. They had no tools to disable the French cannons and had basically blown out their horses, so that by the time the French counterattacked with their lancers, the British horses were already spent, even though British horses were significantly better than the French horses, all through the Peninsula War.
Probably a lot larger.
And at Waterloo. Larger, they were well maintained, they were taken really good care of. They were fed, oats and grains and stuff like that, whereas the French horses were rode constantly, were not properly cared for, rubbed down, just because of circumstances sometimes as much as any purposeful neglect. And also because, especially in the Peninsula War, once you had the partisans attacking the French, the guerrilla wars in Spain and in Portugal, it made it much more difficult for them. They had to rely on forage and grasses and things like that. So it wasn't like they were being supplied with oats and stuff to feed their troops, let alone feed their horses. So anyway, so those are a couple things I've got coming up to read. And this one a little bit more of a fun, called Hellraisers. It's about the life and inebriated times of Richard Burton, Richard Harris, Peter O'Toole, and Oliver Reed, who I would give almost anything to spend an evening drinking with any of these gentlemen, let alone all of these gentlemen. As much as I like you and TJ and Rob and all those guys, yeah, I would much rather drink with these guys than any of you. but so this is on the pile to read. Unfortunately, one of the things I think will be interesting, and I want to see if this touches upon that. Oliver Reed, for example, who died after a very ruckus evening while they were filming Gladiator. He obviously had the reputation for being a wild man and a hellraiser and a drinker and everything like that. And while that's true that they all did, because they were all men of their eras who just happened to be actors, because this is back in a time where even men acted and not those metrosexual soy latte drinking whatever that you have in most Hollywood movies now. But his reputation became such that it was like expected of him. So if you came across Oliver Reed in a pub having a pint, it would have to become something for him to prove he was Oliver Reed, and he almost challenged to see how much he could drink and stuff like that. So it was almost like his reputation became such that it was like being a gunfighter or gunslinger, like Wild Bill Hickok or something like that you were expected to do something. So of course guys would challenge you to see if you were really as tough as you said you were. And it wasn't that he'd ever said he was a drinker or a hellraiser. That became his reputation, and he got kind of challenged on it. So he felt compelled to, like a lot of guys, he felt challenged and having to live up to it. So
there he is right there.
Yeah.
I saw he did an interview or like a lecture series with some students, acting students, and it was very enlightening.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
he's cool.
Yeah, and then and just thought I'd throw this out here. Some other stuff I've got to read. Some of this stuff has been read and needs to be reviewed, but there's a book called White Arrow by Noble Brown.
Yep.
And a sci-fi book called The Iridian by T.J. Martinell. And then there's this other guy. Supposedly he has this other book coming out. I don't know if it's ever going to come out or not, but I've heard I'm reading it if it does. But this one also has a sequel to it apparently as well that's coming out.
That's already done. That's been
it's called Tesla and Malone. Lightning's Call Book 1, and it's by I don't know. I can't remember this author's name.
You bastard.
But Vincent J. Is it La Rosa or La Russa? What is this?
La Rosa.
La Russo?
You know what it is, you bastard.
Anyway, this is one of Vince's books. So not
I
only
that. Thank you.
Do guys here talk about books, but I mean several actually write books. Unfortunately, the only thing I can pull up for you right now is if I'd reach over and grab a couple of gaming books that have my name in them from having worked on them. But I need to get back to doing this because I had several professors that were trying to get me to publish academically, and that was when I was an undergrad. So
oh wow, okay, that would have been cool.
But so anyway.
The second book is done. If you want to read it too, after you read that, I'll send it to you, but in PDF format. Mm-hmm. I had Nick August edit it for me. Did a very good job. It's in the can, waiting my book designer. As you know, I've showed you some of the drafts of the cover.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really pretty badass. However, I think 4 years after having paid the initial deposit is more than enough time and a grace period for even a friend, which he is. So I'm going to do the Irish goodbye with that one and chalk it up as a loss and go ahead and hire another book cover designer.
Sorry to hear that, but I understand. Have you got an idea for the cover for Laserdiscs?
Well, that's it's cap. That's that'll fall under the cover of the anthology.
Okay, so that's going to be in the anthology.
It's coming out this summer. Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's I'm going to do that for a while. I have some other plans for what I want to do in later anthologies. As far as genres and stories, but Laserdiscs, which will be that can be an ongoing series in perpetuity. But I can always it's my anthology, so I can put more than one of my own stories in it, which I probably will.
Makes sense.
So this upcoming one, TJ has 2, Noble has 1, and I have 1, which is really a novella. It's 26,000 words. So that falls under the novella size.
Right.
So, but yeah, and you were talking about Robert McGinnis. That's our background in the back of us right there. It's one of his book illustrations. It's one of my favorites for obvious reasons.
Yeah,
that's from a book called Brooks Wilson, which was published in 1965. So I do have the actual book somewhere over here. Somewhere over here. See if I can find it.
I think my favorite Bond covers are the ones he did.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The Bond covers and the posters are really, really quite good. That's for sure.
I mean, I like other stuff of his, but obviously there have been different editions of the Bond books, and some of the Bond books just have absolutely dreadful covers. So I would have used the McGinnis covers in perpetuity had it been me, just simply because they're that good, and they're the kind of covers that make you want to read the book. Whereas some of the really, especially in the 70s and 80s, they were like bland single color, maybe 2-color covers with like a smoking gun on the cover or a sub on the cover, or it's just very generic. I don't know, maybe military adventure covers. I don't know. It's
Well,
just,
that's
they're
we
not
talked about.
nearly as dynamic as
Yeah, well,
the
that's when
cover.
we talked about the pulp, our pulp talk. That was the pulps, and it kind of bled over. Not kind of, it bled over into the paperbacks of the 50s and
Mhm.
60s. But
Mhm.
that the on the pulps especially in their heyday in the 20s and 30s and 40s, those pulp covers, the magazine publishers and the distribution houses, that's what they wanted. They wanted it to jump off the newsstand.
Mhm.
And the colors and they wanted the pulp magazines to depict action.
Yeah.
Like you saw scenes from the stories and the
Mhm.
overall genre, but the covers conveyed interest and action.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're a kid or a young adult and you've saved all month and you've got 10 cents that you can spend on one thing, which one thing are you going to spend that 10 cents on?
You did judge a book by its cover, and it's funny
Yeah.
too because I'm reading this one book called it's titled A Man's World. It was
Mhm.
all the men's action adventure pulp magazines
Okay.
of the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
All right.
And all these illustrators like Mort Kunstler and James Bama, they
Mhm.
were all bodybuilders and weightlifters. They were
Mhm.
active. They lived what they drew,
Mhm.
which to me I think is congruent and pretty fascinating.
Mhm.
But these guys, their lives were action, and you saw that in what they illustrated and their artwork, so which I think is
Mhm.
pretty cool. So they weren't some fat lazy dude
Mhm.
illustrating action stories and not living the lives that they were depicting.
Right.
But that's the thing. You had all these. That was the main. The pulps were the main. I mean, there were books, obviously,
Mhm.
but magazines were big, especially in the late 1800s, early 1900s, all the way up until around the 50s. That was where you got your stories from,
Oh yeah.
magazines, and there were thousands upon thousands, and newsstands would be packed with these magazines. So how do you make them stand out? In fact, one pulp publisher, he had a one bay newsstand in his office, and he
Mhm.
would fill it up with some of the important magazines, the more popular ones, and say to himself, "All right, well, which ones are standing out to me?"
Mhm.
You'd have his artists do a couple covers for
Mhm.
various pulp magazines that they did, and he would place them in various points in the newsstands. Like, is this magazine popping?
Mhm.
Is the color or the colors and the action drawing me to it? Because you do judge a book by its cover when it comes to these magazines.
Right.
So
Well, and that's how some of the legends of the Old West became legends of the Old West, was appearing in these periodicals that were published on newsstands and stuff back east.
and dime store novels and whatnot.
Yeah, and then the dime novels.
Yeah. There's the classics, they call them, during the Civil War.
Mhm.
Era. They had those pocketbooks.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I guess the only thing even close to that probably died out in the early 80s. Because I mean, you still had the paperbacks at like drugstores and truck stops and gas stations and stuff like that, where you that had kind of the lurid cover art, especially like genre novels, horror and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole rabbit hole you can go down just looking at like horror covers from books published in the 1970s, some of which became movies, like Audrey Rose, and I think maybe The Little Girl That Lived Down the Lane, and Teddy or Teddy Scares. I can't remember. That one had a bear on the cover, but Snails, I think, is one. But there are several of these books that a few of them became, B horror movies in the 70s or early 80s.
Oh yeah, those.
But they all had the very pulp like covers, and of course, they were 95-cent books that you could buy at a drugstore or a truck stop.
Yeah, Fawcett. As a Fawcett, there was Diamond, there was even Avon.
Yeah.
They did a smaller form pulp magazine about that large. Who else? There's Fantasy had tour books, Tour and Ballantine,
Right.
and a couple other ones. There was the ones that picked up the license for Doc Savage.
Mm-hmm.
Those, which I'm actually running out of shelf space for all those I'm collecting. They're fun. You can read them in a weekend.
I do not have a room in this house that does not have bookcases in it. Most of them filled with books.
Yeah.
A few downstairs, because that's where the gaming table and stuff is. All the board games and stuff are down there. So that's like 2 different rooms of shelves filled with board games. I've got more board games than some game stores have board games to sell.
Nice.
Not my fault either. Those are all the responsibility of one of the ladies in my life. Then obviously the bookcases go all around the room here, although I've got some smaller ones back there in order for me to have my movie posters hanging up. My son's bedroom, which is right next door, basically. I've got a Jack and Jill bathroom and then my kid's room. Although he doesn't live here any longer. He's in his 20s and has a job and his own life and such, as should be. I have bookcases in that room, and they are filled. So a couple of the bookcases are filled with nothing but history books. One bookcase is nothing but biographies and autobiographies, mostly of musicians, but of also historic personages, primarily military. Then I've got a couple of shelves which are American graphic novels, and then a couple of shelves that are old paperbacks, which is where my Robert McGinnis covered James Bond books are, and a lot of other 60s, 70s, and 80s sci-fi and fantasy novels. My pulp novels are in the loft. Of course, so are a huge section of the wall which is filled with Japanese model and garage kits. Another few walls which have Blu-rays and DVDs. And then more cases of books. I keep thinking about getting a pool table to put in the loft, but I'd have to move some other stuff around to do that. Because it'd be nice to have a pool table, I think. Because I would certainly play that fairly regularly, just for fun, and obviously playing it with my kids, since I still have a kid young enough to live here. Then obviously the bedroom has bookshelves full of books, and
appropriate.
Yeah, so there are books pretty much. I think right now the bathrooms are the only place that does not have books, because I respect my books too much to do that to them. So
you need shit stench on your books.
No, not at all.
That is not appropriate.
No, absolutely. So, but yeah, I can never have too many books. Fiction wise, I'm not reading as much, simply because there just isn't a lot of it that's written that's of interest to me. And I've already read superior versions of the stories written 10, 20, 50 years ago, so I don't need to read pale imitations of them now. With some of the books, there's some I'm kind of interested in, because the authors seem to be from our generation and have very similar thoughts and philosophies about certain things. So their takes on story ideas sound intriguing and might be interesting. It's just a matter of whether or not they're good at actually writing them and composing those stories. So I mean, there are some people that are obviously worth reading, but history, nonfiction stuff just fascinates the hell out of me all day long, especially if the academics are reliable. They're going to primary sources. They're not looking at the thoughts and opinions of a Victorian age Englishman with the lenses of a 20-something purple-haired college freshman.
Right.
So you've got to kind of work through things, and even then you can't just trust the academic credentials of anyone writing anything. So you've got to apply some diligence and do a little bit of research, independent research on your own to do that. And I'm fine with that. I think that's how it should be with everything. I think, not that we discuss politics here, but I mean, I think you should independently vet your politicians, not just go by what
absolutely
your news channels tell you, or the newspapers tell you, or some stranger on the internet tells you. But unfortunately, we seem to live in a time where it is just easy to be lazy and let someone else deal with it. And hence, I think some of the messes we have are because people have been neglecting their due diligence of being at least individually responsible for themselves and their own decision making. And they've just kind of farmed it out. But well.
Indeed. All right, we're getting close to the hour mark. That went by fast.
Yeah, it did.
It's always good. We like to keep our.
I wonder why. How did we be so brief?
How are we? So we've got technically 8 minutes. If we're going to keep this in an hour, we got about 8 minutes. So anyone has any questions in the chat, feel free to pose them.
Yeah, now would be a great time.
Yeah,
we'll answer whatever
for some questions.
Yeah, especially since we're not asking you to, $20 minimum super chats or any of that kind of stuff.
No, we do not beg for super chats. If you want to give them to us, that we'd be forever grateful, and that'll
Yeah, I mean, I need to buy another bottle of this blackberry whiskey. So
we have you
want to donate to my whiskey or bourbon fund, by all means.
Let's take a look at the Masculine Geek advertisement / super chat tally, if you will. So, okay. We probably make about 10 cents in advertising like every other day, which is kind of
okay.
It's just funny.
Yeah.
So they will disperse funds. You have to have a minimum of $100,
mm-hmm.
and then they'll send you. As you know, I've dispersed you guys money. We split it between the three of us. I have to make sure I give AJ his $5.
Yes.
We have $90.05.
Wow.
So once we get 100, someone wants to push us over. We're not gonna not do that. But we're patiently waiting. I just like seeing it go up every couple days with the ads. I'm like, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
We made another nickel. Yay!
No, AJ. Mike Steele gave us a $20 super chat, unsolicited, the other day, and he said this is for everybody, and you happen to be on the show, so you're still getting $5 from Mike Steele as from the super chat. So hush.
I think he said what, $4 for all of us or something like that, but it was a math error on his part. It was $5 for each of us. So, yeah.
Well, not for nothing. I mean,
yeah,
they YouTube takes 30%.
Yeah.
So you're getting your money, AJ. So hush.
Yeah. So just deal with it. Suck it up, barbarian.
That's right.
Accept your gold pieces and be happy.
That's $5 is $5.
Yeah. Yeah, and you didn't have to earn it the hard way like Cappy does.
That's right.
So.
Oh my God. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or concerns or
about books or any recommendations for books.
Any recommendations? We had some from AJ who's talking about I'm Not Cappy.
Dies the Fire and Protector's War. Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, S.M. Strong is a good writer. We'll leave it open for a few minutes and we'll call it an evening.
Yeah, and obviously, anyone who's watched us for any length of time knows that we love like Edgar Rice Burroughs, H.P. Lovecraft, Robert Howard, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So you can't go wrong with any of that stuff from any of us.
I highly recommend all those.
Mhm.
Yep. Kenneth Robeson, which is a house name for Lester Dent and others writing Doc Savage.
Yeah. Doc Savage, Shadow, even the Shadow clones like the Spider.
Yep. Operator 42.
The Avenger.
The
Not
Avenger.
the Avengers. The Avenger.
The Avenger. I have a couple of those books actually. I was getting into reading Mickey Spillane's books too. Mike Hammer. They're good.
I think Stacy Keach did a really good Mike Hammer back in the day.
He did 2 series, ran for two levels of that. And then he did a couple movies, I think, as well. Okay. Thanks, Bacon. $2 is $2. That's right.
Thank you, Bacon.
Is that what you're worth there, Bacon? We appreciate that. Thank you. That's awesome.
70 cents for each of us. After YouTube takes its cut.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then wasn't Elliot Gould Mike Hammer in a 70s movie? A Mike Hammer movie in the 70s? It
wasn't Elliot Gould. There's another actor that it's reminding of him that I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
What's his face that played he wore the red shirt and he had the big handlebar mustache in Tombstone, one of the cowboys. What the hell is his name?
The one who played Jim Jones?
Booth.
Yeah, Powers Booth.
Powers Booth. He did Philip Marlowe. The Detective Marlowe.
Oh, and I think Elliot Gould did as well.
Okay. Yeah, Philip Marlowe. Those ones with Powers Booth are really good. I would suggest watching those.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was because it was weird because you look at him and it's like that's not at all how I picture him. But
I know, right? Yeah, if you're looking at the Philip Marlowe, you're like, wait a minute, that he kind of looks familiar. And then I was reading the IMDb one, and I'm like, oh crap, that is him. Holy shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, Elliot Gould in 1973 was in Robert Altman's adaptation of the Raymond Chandler The Long Goodbye.
Oh, The Long Goodbye.
So yes, he played. So Elliot Gould played Philip Marlowe. That's who
Marlowe.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And was it? There's a line that they quoted in an episode of Blue Bloods, and it's like, down these mean streets a man goes who is not in himself mean or cruel or something like that. And I think it's like Dashiell Hammett who wrote that.
It could be Dashiell Hammett. That also sounds like a Mickey Spillane saying too.
Yeah. but obviously Dashiell Hammett and Mickey Spillane, all those older crime drama guys I would recommend.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely check out Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer character is phenomenal. Very violent, very vigilante-like. He always says, he's like, look, I'm on the side of the law, but I can do the things that the cops can't.
Right.
And that was his character. He was a big dude. He's not afraid to bust an informant's face or someone who's giving him lip. It's quite entertaining.
Now, I know TJ's not here, but wasn't he getting into like Remo Williams and The Executioner and stuff like that? Some of those old adventure novels serials from like the 1970s. Wasn't he talking about trying to track down some of those, or was that someone else?
I think it was somebody.
Okay.
That doesn't sound familiar. Doesn't sound. Okay. I mean, it could be. I could be. My memory could be off. So.
You didn't miss a D&D game tonight, did you?
I did not. That's. I'm not as forgetful and old. Actually, Rollo is older than me.
Yeah,
And in fact, his birthday is coming up, isn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's like
I
April
think
or May or something.
he's like a month or two older than I am.
Okay.
Because I think we were both born in '68, if I remember correctly.
Okay. So you guys are 56?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I just turned 54.
Yeah. So
We're indeed old. That's why we have all these books. We've just been around for so long. I didn't even touch on the books that I have in store. I have a small 5x5 storage unit that's essentially full of toys from my youth and books. So I really need to. I've been telling myself year after year. It's because the storage unit goes up every year, and I'm tired of paying it. So I will probably. I say this. We'll see what happens, but I will probably get in there when it gets a little bit warmer.
Okay.
It's still chillier on the week, like probably a couple hours every weekend, like Saturday morning, and go in and start curating and throwing stuff out and keeping what I want to keep, and then eventually by the fall, the end of the summer, get rid of that storage unit.
Do you ever see yourself owning your own property? Should the housing market ever not be quite as nuts with interest rates and house mortgages and loans and all that kind of stuff? Do you ever see yourself owning your own medium, comfortable sized place? A place for you, all your books, where you can entertain ladies when you want and send them off when you don't.
Well, I still do that anyway, but
well, I know, but I mean, obviously, there's a difference between renting an apartment and pretending to own your own place. Since with property taxes, you never really do own your own place. But
yeah, exactly. No, I know, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about it. I do have schematics and blueprints for a tower.
Oh, cool!
I've always wanted to live in a tower.
Yeah. Why am I not surprised that the mage in our group wants to live in a tower?
Live in a tower. The bottom is an area to hold all my vehicles, and the second and third part of the tower are living quarters and a huge study with a rooftop deck, obviously,
right,
for gazing and viewing the stars. I had thought of buying property in the Northeast, at least an acre.
Yeah,
because I would like to have dogs and actually rehabilitate raccoons.
Well, if you just want to rehabilitate raccoons, you just have Rob Says move in with you.
There you go.
Although I don't know if you can rehabilitate that.
Maybe
a lost cause.
Rob is cool. Yeah, no, the idea of living in a tower just completely speaks to the inner D&D geek in me, and something I've always wanted to do. So we'll see. It's not out of the realm of possibility. And I've been looking at a few properties in Maine. But
that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would probably take at least 5 years from start to finish, probably.
Yeah,
I doubt I'd do it myself. Have to hire contractors and such. And see what's going on with the plumbing and the heating conditions and whatnot, how I want to work that, because I do want to work a fireplace into it.
Oh, obviously. Well, the nice thing with the tower is you could have like a central fireplace that is like a circular fireplace that on like the whatever floor you have it on, or if you have it on like multiple floors in that center space in the column, and then the chimney going up through the center of the tower. Yeah, there are a couple of different possibilities, and that could be really cool, because I've seen a few houses that have that it's like a circular room with the fireplace is right in the middle, and it's a circular fireplace. So literally anywhere you go, you get to appreciate that hearth-like feeling at home.
Oh yeah, so there's houses in Levittown, PA, and Willingboro that have that design. They're all ranchers, but they have the living room and kitchen were usually separated by a fireplace that was basically the wall of both sides.
Yes, yeah, I've seen.
You have it on both sides, and almost all the Levittown houses, at least, people renovate, but when they were first built, they were put in.
Yeah, was that pretty popular in like the late '60s, early '70s as a design aesthetic, just like the step down living
The
rooms
sun-
and
oh, the
stuff.
sunken living rooms. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
definitely a 60s and 70s aesthetic.
Yeah.
Appealed to a lot of bachelors and whatnot. So, but for me,
Yeah,
it's the tower.
There are aspects of that I really like. I appreciate movies from like the 60s and 70s of the future that had those 70s futuristic things, which are like completely dated now. But there's something I think is kind of cool about them. I don't know if I'd want to live in that because, like you, I want my own fortification. But you know, I like the idea of a castle structure with like wooden interiors and dark wooden beams.
Oh yeah,
this
will be a stone tower.
Yeah, that's I totally get where you're coming from on that. So
can house I'll be buying another vehicle soon.
And you already have an evil familiar. Mowgli.
Bad bastard cat. Yeah. I've always wanted a little convertible MG. So that's next on my list. I miss my old convertible, so I want something just to tool around in the summertime when I'm not on my bike.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And you tootling around in an MG with or without a lady companion, that would be a cool look. So
yeah, and it makes sense. MG,
especially you got the hat for it and everything too.
I got the cap and everything.
Yeah.
And MG, it's our logo. But I always I either a red one or a forest green with the butterscotch leather.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's one for sale somewhere in central Pennsylvania for $9,000.
Wow.
It still has the original 70,000 miles on it.
Oh.
Yep.
That I could see how that could be tempting. So
yeah, I'm very very tempted to go take a look at it this weekend. We'll see.
Couldn't hurt just to look. But well, if no one has anything else, I guess we'll call it a night.
Chris, I do not want you to shit my cornflakes. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. I have no problem fixing my own vehicle. It will be a hobby car. I already know how to drive stick as well, and do manual transmission.
Mm-hmm.
It will indeed be a hobby car. It'll be something, like I said, that I tool around with in the summertime, especially going to the shore, going to the coast with it. So,
Bacon, I'd always thought if I ever got a beach home, I would want to have not only a boat dock, but a dock for a seaplane. Because I love old seaplanes.
Yeah, seaplanes are cool.
Yeah, I like the idea of that. So living down in the Florida Keys with a seaplane parked at my house, I could do winters like that, I think.
Yeah. I would learn to fix this myself. I want to get back to changing my own oil and all that stuff. I have no problem doing that. And for me, spending $9,000 on a hobby car is really not that much.
Yeah.
Especially for a little convertible.
Yeah, I have similar thoughts about getting that with that 70 Firebird I talked to you about
a
week ago.
Yeah,
Same thing, because I'd be able to do pretty much everything to it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, if there's no more questions from the chat or observations, we're going to call it a night because we're both old and tired. And we have books to read.
We've got books to read.
Yeah, books to read. I want to get through some of the history here. Once again, gentlemen, pick this up for yourself. It's I think it was 48 or 58. Anyway, it's definitely under $75. I think it was $48. The Art of Pinup. Dion Hansen with Louis K. Measle and Sarah Jane Blum.
Yeah.
So,
and if you're into British military stuff from the Napoleonic and the Anglo-Zulu Wars, I'd highly recommend both books because I have completed them, read one more than once, and then obviously there's this. So
yes.
Take care of my reprobate friends. Keep them writing.
Go buy our books. Chris, there are at least 4 exotic car repair shops within 5 miles of me. New Jersey is insane. I've got like 3 or 4 motorcycle places I can go to, all within 3 or 4 miles. So I'm not worried. If I have to, I could farm the workout. So, but I want to do that myself.
And those are just the legal places. Vince isn't even counting all the chop shops in New Jersey.
I don't live very far from Camden. So, yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, thanks for the shout out for our stuff, Robert. Appreciate that.
Oh,
I'm a bad marketer. I never really.
Well, no, I believe in supporting my friends, so that's what that
Cheers.
was, and that's to you too, my friend. That's why I picked up Noble's book. That's why I picked up a couple of TJ's. So that was just the one I had closest. I didn't need to advertise more TJ's books. It's for that much. TJ can't even get access to his books at the moment. So
I know he's very frustrated.
Oh, I don't blame him.
That's got to be like permanent. That sinking feeling in your stomach when you lose your phone or your car keys.
Yeah, absolutely. So.
Not having access to your work.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem, one of several problems I have with Amazon, but we won't go there. That'll be for another show. So everyone, excuse me. Thank you for joining us. Let's see if there's an MG. That's a good idea. I'll just hit the meetups.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good. Thank you for that advice there. But everyone who's in the chat, thank you as always. Pleasure to talk to you and see you as much as we can virtually. And so this coming Wednesday will be Rollo's game. And I'll get that thumbnail made and the StreamYard link set up and get that on the schedule on YouTube. So that's there. And then remind everybody, send out a reminder email. And also try to get Rollo on the schedule for May as well. As like I said, April 10th is Drew's game. And the rest of the month, with the exception of the 24th, is pretty open. Thanks, Calibrate. The name's awesome. You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for supporting the show by being here and participating. And I hope I answered your book questions satisfactorily. But like I said, I will maybe take some photos of my shelves so you guys can get an idea what I have. Some shots of the room and whatnot.
Yeah. I also appreciate the 10cc album cover and your little iconography for your name there, Calibrate. So.
Oh yeah. No crap. Yeah, it is. That's awesome.
Obviously, well, it's hard to tell because it's kind of dark, but I've got a thing for music, so it's CDs everywhere.
Yep. CDs nuts.
Yeah, exactly. CDs. So,
always trying to get my friends at work with the CD jokes, CDs nuts jokes.
Yeah.
Ligma Johnson.
Yeah. I got to do a Your Mama to Alex Costello on Twitter the other day.
Oh, you did? You got one with a mom joke?
Oh God, yeah. He I don't what was it? It was
what
something
is that guy
about
what is that fucker up to lately?
Kind
of fell off the map.
He's still whispering to Spurg, so I mean he's got that going for him.
Jesus.
But he's posting about, just some of the silliness that's going on and his takes on some things, and then let's see if I can find the exact thing. He posted one of those questions that people do for engagement and everything, which was kind of humorous. And I was giving him grief about it in a way, and he seemed to find it amusing, which is good, because that was definitely the spirit in which it was intended. But yes, here we go. He had posted, "What is the one thing you regret doing in your 20s?" To which I responded, "Is this where I say your mother?"
That's awesome. I would totally have said that, but I just would have said your mama.
Yeah. And And of course, he's like, his response to that was, "It's about damn time."
Nice.
So there you go. But yeah, he's still Spurg whispering on Twitter and stuff. So
he kind of dropped off the radar as far as like YouTube stuff.
yeah. So
yes, AJ Sigismund will definitely have a lot more dwarves, and I don't know where we go. Who knows what Drew's going to throw at us?
Yeah.
You never know. We still have those orcs and goblin encampment that's burning out part of the southern part of the northern part of the island.
Mm-hmm.
So we may have to help dispatch those. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
We still have quests to fulfill.
Yeah, you've got a basilisk to milk.
I do. That's right.
Got to milk a basilisk prostate and bring it back.
Right. That's the thing. We have to find
Sled. Yeah,
to find Sled so we can sell him to the Carney, the Barker.
I still say we use him as basilisk bait, but whatever. We'll do something with Sled.
Well, if he survives the basilisk,
yeah,
we could even sell him as a stone statue, as a curio to him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Might be worth something. Right. Or have the spell reversed by the wizard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then sell them into slavery.
Sell them back and get our 20%.
Yep. 20% is 20%.
That's right. It'd be good to have gold pieces roll in.
Yep.
It's a passive income in the D&D world.
Hey, that's why you build your own fortification and tax the people around you.
That's right.
The way Gygax intended it.
Absolutely. So. All right, we are now at the 1 hour and 16-minute mark. So not that it's a huge deal, but we're going to call it a night because it's that time. We're going to read and pass the fuck out. So, all right, everyone. Once again, thank you for joining us. Anyone who makes it this far listening later, thank you as well. You are a trooper. In the meantime, I'm not going to say what TJ always says, which I always say in the newsletter, so to continue. Just go read the newsletter when we have them, or read past newsletters, which I do need to. I might have one out this Monday because I did promise a subject matter a couple weeks ago. So,
yeah.
All right, let's cue our music and take us out of here. Let's go. Let's do it. Good night, everyone. Claire's gay.